Very good time to be in person.
Mayor, we're ready when you are.
Much more manageable from
I'm embarrassed to tell you, 40 years ago, she was in the front. I made sure she went over as cute and smaller. And
I would have told you this one
We're all set to go. Thank you, sir. Welcome everybody to our monthly meeting for the Town Council for Beech Mountain. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
motion. Carried. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. Cyclone, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Another beautiful day on Beech Mountain here. Our scripture for today is from Joshua. It says, "Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." In August of 1945, 76 years ago, the United States was, we had just defeated with allies Germany. The World War II was still going on. There was a lot of work to do, but we were devoting our full attention to Japan at this time. And Japan was losing the war, but they made it clear that they were going to fight to the very end. They weren't going to surrender. They were going to be a guerrilla type war. They'd bring spears, rocks, what have you, and they'd fight to the death, man, woman, and child. And they had kind of demonstrated this before because of the kamikaze attacks on our aircraft carriers. Now, at this time, it was rumored that the United States was developing a secret weapon called the atomic bomb. It was so secret that President Harry Truman, when he was vice president, didn't even know about it. They didn't tell President Truman. He found out about it after he became president, when President Franklin Roosevelt died suddenly, and President Truman was briefed. Now, during these days in August, 76 years ago, President Truman faced probably the hardest decision any person throughout history has ever had to make a decision to, should he drop this bomb or not. He knew if he did, didn't really know what would happen, but he knew it'd be hundreds of thousands of civilians would be killed. He also knew that if we had to invade Japan with our military forces, it's estimated as much as 1 million American soldiers and several million Japanese civilians would be killed. So this was the dilemma that he faced at this time. After much consideration, President Truman decided to drop the bomb. And before he did, he dropped leaflets warning the people and tell them this was a terrible thing going to happen. But he went ahead with it, and the Enola Gay, of course, was the first one we have learned, and it was named for the pilot's mother. One of the crew, I understand, was a graduate of Leeds McRae College. Some of you might know more about that. Maybe, I believe it's either Navigator or Bombardier One. But its name is on the little memorial garden they have back up Leeds McRae there. But devastation was unreal. But once again, President Truman asked them to surrender. They still refused. So the second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Now, after this, the Japanese did agree to the surrender. And now, 76 years later, people are still debating, did President Truman do the right thing? You have professors, politicians, talking heads on TV. And as we all know, it's awful easy hindsight to look back and say a decision. We had a man spoke to us at Kiwanis several years ago, was with the Graves registration out of Tartan Defense at this time. And he told us at this time, this was probably about 20 years ago, that body bags were still being used, like in the Gulf War, Afghanistan, that had been made for anticipation of the lives that we would lose had we invaded Japan. And of course, since then, we've had Korea, Vietnam, plus the Gulf War and all this. So they were prepared for this. You know, whether we agree with what he did or not, I think we all will have to agree that this was the hardest decision anyone would ever have to make. President Truman, I think, summed it up pretty much after the war was over. He's reported to have said, "There are those today that question my decision. However, I have never heard or met anyone who was in the military at that time that wasn't in favor of it." So it did end a long, hard-fought, bloody war without having to invade Japan. Would you bow your heads, please? Lord, we thank you for all the many blessings you bestowed upon us, both as a nation and individually. We thank you for blessing us by allowing Beech Mountain to be called our home. We ask that you help us through the COVID pandemic, that you heal our land and help us return to the spirit and belief that we had when our country was born, with your divine guidance and blessing. We ask that you bless our President Joe, Roy, our governor, Barry, our mayor, and we ask blessings and protection for our military, our law enforcement, our EMTs, and our firefighters. And may you continue to bless the United States of America and Beech Mountain. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Family, do we have any public comments? Is it Dr. Miller or Nancy who want to talk? Which one?
Thank you, no.
Okay. Sandy? Address and everything.
Hi, Sandy Carr, 505 Pine Ridge Road, and I just wanted to draw to your attention and all of our wonderful people in the audience. We have a new RAC card that has got some really great information. This RAC card was developed because Councilwoman Aaron and Kelly came up with a great idea of trying to go ahead and combine all of our channels of communication and get that out to our residents and our visitors. So what we did is we put something together very, very simple. If you've not had a chance, the town staff and Councilwoman did a really great job of redesigning our town website. And there's some things on there that now you can find just with the click of a couple buttons. For example, they've got applications, forms, permits. You can report a problem, which there's a lot of major cities that don't even have that. And of course, all kinds of contact information, our ordinances, the comprehensive plan. So if you really did want to learn about our town, actually there's even a history section. If you really did want to learn about our town, this is the great first stop for information. And we have probably about 1,000 of these cards. We're going to go ahead and we're to distribute them. But as you guys know, you can't just communicate in one form or fashion. So we're also going to go ahead and blast this out to our email lists. We're going to go ahead and give it to the rec department so they can send it out. And the History Museum, Nancy and Dr. Miller, they already took a couple. They're going to distribute them around the club for us. So Jimmy, I'm sure that you would be happy. Oh, congratulations on the parking lot, by the way. I'm like, damn, he does it when I leave, you know? But it looks really, really good over there. The other section on this, I think you guys, for a town of our size, it's pretty incredible. Not only do we have the Code Red system, but we now have a radio station that can broadcast emergency information 24 hours a day. So that's really important. We also, of course, have this wonderful fire department website, and if you all have children, Sparky has got the best kids corner there, especially if we're not going to be able to, go to school or whatever. There's a lot of education and games on there that everybody might want to dive into. And then, of course, we've got Beech TV. We've got 2 channels. It depends on whether you're on Spectrum or whatever, but the 192 and the 18. And the TDA worked really, really hard to update that with information. Another really great thing is, Tamara, wave your hand. You're famous. Tamara's got a really great email list that she sends out reminders of our meetings, and then it also has the agenda with the packets. So if you read that, you kind of just know what's going to be going on here, and it's another really easy way to stay informed. So, of course, the TDA has got a really great website that you can sign up for, and our chamber. And those different websites let you know what's going on per week and per season, what promotions are being run and everything. And the last thing I want to say is a lot of people nowadays are kind of getting a little mixed up between an official website versus the social media, like a Facebook. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, they're wonderful. They're wonderful for sharing memories and experiences. But if you're looking for information, especially information about the town, the thing you need to go to first is go to the source and go to the town's website. So anyways, thank you guys. Anybody that can help to distribute these, thank you. Councilwomen, great idea. And thanks for all you guys do.
Well done.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, today we're going to feature local business, Mile High Landscaping, Matt Stokes. You're up, sir.
Mayor, if I could just introduce Matt for just a minute, let me tell you who he is. Come on up. This is, I receive a lot of calls every day, all week long on the town. Most are not, most are people that have issues or problems that need to be dealt with. But I do receive some calls about how nice our roadways and our landscaping looks along the town. And if you recall, 2 budgets ago, you approved hiring a professional vendor to maintain our roadways, our roadsides, and he does our parks and things like that. I wanted to bring the person who does it to you today. And let me tell you, he mows grass in the rain. I've actually seen him weed eating when it was snowing. I'm not sure what he was weed eating, but Matt Stokes, Mile High Landscaping, is the gentleman who is responsible for the improvements to our roadways, and I wanted to introduce him to you today.
Thank you so much for that. Well, I didn't really prepare anything to say. I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been up here for about 20 years now, and been mowing pretty much that whole time. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to offer this service. And I just, I love doing it, and I just feel like I'm highlighting the natural beauty of Beech Mountain when I'm out there mowing. So I take a lot of pride in it. I love to do it, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do it. And, that's about it. I don't really know what else to say, but
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you so much. Really.
Snow removal as well.
Oh, yeah. Also, I do snow removal in the wintertime too. And I'm starting to work now with other companies to try to get it together to where we can all stay in contact with each other when somebody needs something on one side of the mountain. If we're over there, then we get it, and so we're starting to work more with other companies and be, collaborate and everything to get stuff done more efficiently, because it does get to the point where I just can't get to, I never know what's going to happen or who's going to come in and help and all that, so many things. But I'm working very hard to try to make it a little more efficient to make sure everybody gets taken care of.
You're awesome.
How do you make the grass look so nice when you're cutting it when it's raining?
Well, that's my equipment. Like I got the best equipment always. I keep up with, like this year, I'll give you an example. I've gone through 3 different trimmer lines for weed whackers to try to have the most optimal cut on it that lifts the grass the best. And, it's where I'm kind of obsessed with it, so, but I got to credit that the equipment for sure.
Well, you've definitely given the roads that you cut a facelift, and it looks very nice. And
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for all of your hard efforts and your help as well.
He's a local business.
Yes.
Yeah, about 20 years now, I'd say, up here now.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And Matt does a fabulous job at the dog park to keep it the way it is. He goes through an awful lot.
Oh, yeah, that place is a little challenging. Yeah, that's one of the harder ones.
But my God, sorry, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Now may be a good time to pass your hat around for tips.
Put the business card out.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
But
appreciate it. Thank you.
if anybody has any questions, but other than that, thank you very much. Thank you, I really
Matt,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, I need a motion
Chief,
to the consent agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Matt.
Bob, you want to talk about the EMS?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as we talked about last month, you voted to approve us moving forward, and I wanted to bring you an update of where we are. I believe at your next council meeting, you'll be asked to approve a final proposal. But I did want to start off with telling you that we received a grant of $100,000 from the Mountain Ambulance Foundation, Dr. Murray Miller, as seed money to develop this full-time EMS paramedic unit on Beech Mountain. And the doctor's here today, if we could just acknowledge that. Murray, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'd like to say the money is from all of you supporting Mountain Ambulance over the years.
If you recall from Dr. Miller's presentation last month, he said the life we save may be yours. That's quite appropriate. So he did come through with what he said he would, $100,000. That's a substantial donation.
Thank you.
So we've received 2 written proposals from both Watauga and Avery counties. Both proposals provide a 24-hour full-time paramedic unit here on the mountain. We've paid for by the town of Beech Mountain taxpayers. They both require the town to provide housing for the unit and the crew, which we're working on that as we speak. There are substantial operational as well as financial differences in the 2 proposals that I need your permission to move forward in negotiating. Both proposals stipulate that unit would be available for out of Beech Mountain responses for the surrounding areas. If it's the Avery proposal, it's Vanderell, Fall Creek, in that area. And if it's the Watauga proposal, they do Fall Creek as well now, and they want to be able to send the unit in that direction. With that said, and because the town of Beech Mountain taxpayer is paying 100% of the cost, what I'd like you to allow me to do is negotiate a disincentive for them to take that unit off the mountain, and I would do that financially. It makes sense to be able to help our neighbor, and it makes sense to provide mutual aid, and it makes sense to be able to respond within reason. But what we don't want to do is have that unit paid for by our taxpayers and used substantially somewhere else. So I'd like to negotiate with them a financial fee for every time it leaves the mountain. I don't know what that is yet. We'll calculate that based on cost and call load. But I think we need an incentive into the contract that keeps the unit available for the people who are paying for it. If it was being paid for by Watauga taxpayers or Avery taxpayers, I wouldn't have such a strong feeling about it. But we're asking our taxpayers to pay 100% of the cost. So I didn't know if you wanted to discuss that. It's not something that I felt comfortable taking back to either one of the managers of Avery or Watauga without at least discussing it with you. So that's the first issue I need to at least get worked out. If we don't have some incentive or disincentive to move the unit, there's a possibility that we'll find ourselves supporting other local areas around us who aren't paying anything towards that cost of the unit. Our taxpayers not only pay to Avery and Watauga for the basic EMS service, but we're asking them to pay for this enhanced service on the mountain. And I think, well, at least in my opinion, money talks. And if there's a financial cost to move that unit to run a call, it should be justifiable, but it also should be used as an incentive to keep the unit on Beech Mountain.
So can you stipulate in the contract that the EMS has to remain on Beech Mountain?
Well, we could, and I thought about that, and quite frankly, I'm not sure that's the best thing that I would recommend. We don't do that with the fire department. So for instance, we keep the fire department here, but when Banner Elk has a structure fire and they need help, we go help them. When we need help, they come up here. It would be, I would have trouble sleeping at night if our unit was not busy and it was sitting here and there was a heart attack just down the mountain outside town limits. So I think
Is there a percentage based on county, Avery versus Watauga, on what we're trying to negotiate as far as paying for this?
I really don't know how it would work out. In other words, if the unit is here and it's on the radio and there's a call, it's going to be dispatched. The more often that occurs, the less benefit our taxpayers have in their funding this unit. It's similar to the police and as well as the fire, as I explained. So I think because it's a financial arrangement with both counties, either one that we go with on behalf of the town of Beech Mountain, then the incentive or disincentive, however you want to look at it, should be financial.
And it'll be housed at Station House, or is that where we're thinking? Or
at least temporarily, there'll be a fire station too, because that's the facility I have where I can put the unit. In Watauga's proposal, they would like to look at building a base up here. That's not me. Building a base up here as we move forward, and that's to be looked at in the future. But initially, there's going to be a fire station number 2.
So, Chief, if there is an incentive or disincentive that if they do go off the mountain and it creates, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be that one situation or two situations, but if there's a pattern that it creates an issue for the taxpayers on Beech Mountain, can that incentive be taken away at any time? Or is that just will be part of the contract?
Per call, isn't it?
Well, the incentive, the incentive that I'm asking permission to negotiate would be that every time it leaves the mountain for a call, that there would be a financial payment or credit back to the town.
Let me rearrange my question. So if the ambulance goes off the mountain and then there's a situation on Beech Mountain, I'm sure someone will say, well, we're taxpayers, and why in the ambulance on Beech Mountain? And or even though if there's another ambulance available that's 10 minutes out, but if it does create issues that the ambulance is off the mountain, maybe more than it's on the mountain, can that incentive be taken away, and then the town mandates that, all right, it's creating issues that the ambulance is not on the mountain 24/7. We need to keep it on Beech Mountain 24/7.
Well, certainly we can put anything in the contract that they agree to. You have to have two parties agree to it.
the ambulance has to leave the mountain. There's not a hospital here. So for every patient that needs to go to the hospital on Beech Mountain that they pick up, they have to leave the mountain. They have to go to Cannon or Watauga Hospital. So, that would not be in my scenario, that would not be a chargeable call where we would be reimbursed.
I understand they gotta leave the mountain to go to the
But
hospital.
let's assume that they're on the way back from the hospital, and there's a call at, Fox Run. I would not feel comfortable telling them to drive by. I wouldn't allow my fire truck to do that.
Sure.
So, the agreement can be structured in almost any way we want, assuming both parties agree. And if you don't like the financial penalty or incentive, however you want to look at it, then we need to come up with a different metric to measure it. What we don't want to do is just put it in place and then find out that we have a problem.
Yeah.
And then try and solve it. I want to solve it up front.
So basically, just for the record, the difference between what we're doing and what we have now is, it was a 45-minute call to get an ambulance up here to be able to take somebody off the mountain. And then what we're talking about right now is providing.
A dedicated unit to Beech Mountain.
Right.
And other than the cost,
Right.
that's the easy part.
Well, I'm just seeing, so people understand that, what we currently have and what we don't have it's a big difference.
And what I'm concerned with is how to manage that.
Right.
Let them finish and then I'll get
It's just,
I want to be able to negotiate an agreement initially that takes into consideration all the things that would cause us a problem. And obviously causing a problem is if we're paying 100% of the cost, our taxpayers are. And it's being used by either the Watauga or the Avery system, which I think we need to have some flexibility there. I think there needs to be some accommodation. And we need to have some measurable way to make sure that it doesn't become another town's, EMS.
Right.
But it would be housed here.
My
Yes.
plan is to house it at Fire Station
Fire
number
Station
2 until a permanent base can be created.
Okay. So
and
what-
taxpayers
what's it
need
have
to
to-
know also what it costs to helicopter off versus.
Right.
What happens when like Eagle's Nest is using it?
That area that's called Eagles, they're in the summer, this condition that we're in. They don't have EMS close by. The nearest unit is in Bannerell. And as I've reported, a lot of times that unit has actually moved during the beginning of the shift to Newland so that it can respond, in a centralized form.
Yes, sir.
We could set limits on how far it would go from the town.
Okay.
That could be done. To me, it makes it more difficult to manage than it is if you take the truck, it costs X amount of dollars and it's substantial, justifiable. And so, money seems to motivate other governments and they certainly motivate us. So if there's a per call impact to moving that unit, it would discourage that happening on a daily basis possibly.
Because the goal here, Chief, is response time, correct?
Correct. Reduce response time for emergency medical
Right, on the mountain.
Yes.
Does that help at all with our fire code or having EMS up here, or does that
The
For the
insurance
insurance
rate?
help the
rating?
town at all, or?
It doesn't for the insurance rating, that's strictly
Okay.
ISO for fire rating, but certainly it helps the town, if you have a medical
Right.
emergency. And
Wow.
that's
Been
what
there, done
we're
that.
trying to solve.
Okay.
Is the problem we've experienced in the last couple of years of extended response times because the system is over impacted and there aren't enough units.
Okay.
Dr. Miller, do you have something on that?
Yes, I'd like to comment because I can understand Bob's concern. Let me first thank council for supporting having the EMS up here. I think, I'd like to have it yesterday, but I would not like to see it pushed so fast, so hard, that we overlook some of these problems. I would like to make a couple of suggestions. One, this should not be a discussion in the dark, which is going on. I've suggested to Bob, this involves the residents of Beech Mountain, the visitors to Beech Mountain, the businesses of Beech Mountain, as well as Banner Elk, Eagle's Nest, Beech Mountain Club, the back of the mountain that are not residents here. I think it would be very worthwhile, and I took the liberty myself of having a meeting with the president of Lee's McRae College, because this also impacts on his students, their health care. He was extremely supportive, wants to do everything that he can, and would be more than willing to support a meeting somewhere between the middle of August and middle of September, which is his window before the students come back. But I certainly think it would be worthwhile if Bob could head a meeting where we talk to the people, a leader of Elk River, a leader of Eagle's Nest, Brian Barnes from the Beech Mountain Club. Mountain Ambulance has its funding because we got support from all over. The main reason we got support from Banner Elk was, those of you may remember, the pharmacist there had a heart attack and died. This became very important in their thinking. I think we ought to see about having a meeting of all of these leaders of groups here. Nobody's considered Eagle's Nest, which is further away than almost anybody. I've tried calling them, don't have a response yet. But I think if we could try to organize a meeting where they understood the problem, and maybe they'd come up with a solution in which the reason this problem occurred is because our provider, which is Avery County, found it was more expedient to follow the money than the emergency. And because when they do a transport, they know where they're getting their fee from. When they respond to an emergency, they don't know if they're going to get any fee spot. So I would like to see these other leaders know that their people are going to be involved and that this is a concern. Do we want to exclude Fall Creek? Do we want to exclude Eagle's Nest? Do we want to exclude the people from Beech Mountain Club who don't live in Beech Mountain?
Well, I personally, I'm more interested in what the residents want. I really, to be honest with you, I don't really care about Eagle's Nest or anybody else. I care, our residents are the ones that are going to support it. We're asking them to pay $425,000 a year. They have to understand that it's quite possible that they will call and the ambulance will not be here. And so this has got to be clear and exact, that the public understands. So to me, I much prefer to have a public meeting with the residents, that they understand that their tax dollars are going for this ambulance, which quite possibly would not be available when they need it. If Eagle's Nest, somebody gets sick there, they have to work out their own problems. If we want to just go down the mountain to Banner Elk, there's an ambulance right there, sitting right by the Public Works building. What Avery's doing is they're moving it to Newland. Again, we're asking our residents to pay to help other people. And I know from people that have asked me about it, the first question that came out of the conversation is the ambulance going to be here full-time?
And our budget, when we did the budget thing.
So to
we
me,
saw it going red.
at this point, I want to deal with the public, that they understand that their tax dollars are going to this ambulance service with a quite possibility that when they call, that ambulance might not be here.
Eva Jones, 100 Skiway. I would also like to, since I'm a resident here for almost 50 years, my taxes have gone to Watauga Tax Services, okay? I've paid it for so many years. I have gotten a bus or a sheriff that comes and presents a statement of some sort or accusation. That's the only thing I have gotten from my taxes that I have paid to Watauga County. So if the ambulance service is part of my taxes in Watauga County, and I haven't used them, why aren't my taxes going to that too here? So why can't we discuss it with the tax system also, that we get some of our tax money back serving us here on Beech Mountain? And the same thing with the ABC store. We have a lot of people from Beech Mountain going to the ABC store, but we don't get very much funding from it.
You're moving away from the subject.
No,
We can't control tax, how Watauga charges us. So we're just moving away from the subject.
I think we're just making it quicker. I mean, it's an $800, based on what my experience, ambulance ride
What is it?
to Canada. So,
that's my
I
opinion.
mean, whether or not you wait 45 minutes or you wait an hour,
Mayor, if I could just
That's where we
interject.
are.
The Watauga, Mrs. Jones is correct. A majority of our residents pay Watauga County taxes.
So do
I do. And in Watauga's proposal to the town, they are going to credit us that tax income that they now collect from us for ambulance service that they have been paying to Avery County for as long as Avery County's been providing service. So in their proposal, they will be crediting the town of Beech Mountain that money.
That's a good question.
and that'll go towards what we're paying
That
per
go-
year.
That would go directly a credit against what the annual fee would
Is
be.
that just a basic insurance payments, or
No, it's actually, there's a
is there a fee? It's
ca-
just a fee for the
It's
ambulance
a
to come
calculation
up here.
that somehow Watauga has calculated, that that's what they collect from our Watauga residents, that they have been paying Avery County to run our EMS. And they will now, if we go with Watauga, they will credit the town with that tax money.
So what will happen with Avery residents? Is it different, or is it the same fee, or is it?
No,
similar?
Avery residents would be in this exact same
Same
position. They pay
situation.
Avery County
Okay.
taxes for an EMS, and they are receiving, Avery County by contract provides the services here today. I just wanted to clarify.
No, I appreciate that. Anybody else have any comment?
I think it needs a lot more discussion, and I think we need to see a town hall meeting, get a lot of input in the educational.
I think a public, yeah, if we do, not the trash public one, but a different one, it would be probably good to have residents, because I've paid, I mean, I have teenagers, so I've already paid for the ambulance service, so see if people feel that's worth it, or,
I think we definitely need to have a meeting on a public venue to make everybody aware of where we are with this and the direction we're moving with this. Because the number one goal is response time. You know, if something happens at the ski resort and we need an ambulance quickly, and we know that we have an ambulance that's housed here and it can be at the resort in 6 minutes, or if they're on a call with someone else and there's an ambulance, the dispatch can get here in 10 minutes, it's all about the response time. So
Right.
we don't want what we don't, we know what we don't want. We don't want 45-minute, we don't want 90-minute wait
well,
time.
we're hitting $400,000 a year.
Right.
So the public needs to be aware,
Yeah.
that's what they're paying.
Mayor, if I could just interject again, we did advertise and we did hold a public hearing on this. Dr. Miller was one who spoke. I would not want to go backwards unless you want to have another public hearing, but we did advertise and held a public hearing on this subject, and it was your direction to have me negotiate the two proposals with,
I agree with that, but at that point, there was never a discussion that the ambulance would be available to other towns. I think that has to be brought to the forefront.
well, you can simply tell me to put it in the agreement that it can't leave. Obviously, it has to leave to go to the hospital.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like you mentioned about the fire truck. We go as a backup, but I don't want our ambulance to be a backup, you know. If we're taxpayers are paying, Unless we're transporting somebody to a hospital, the ambulance should be here.
Well, Mayor, I don't believe we need a public hearing for that. You need to tell me to put that in the contract, that the ambulance is not used for any other calls outside of Beech Mountain.
Then
What's that to do with both counties then?
Well, I don't know. They put it in their proposal to us. I'll respond back that town council does not want and what I'd like to do is continue negotiating the contracts as opposed to starting over.
Yes, sir.
So, if that's the direction, that's what I'm asking for is direction. I'll simply go back to them and say it's a dedicated unit to Beech Mountain and it can't leave except to transport our patient to the hospital.
If we're paying the tab,
well, you champion this situation.
Yes.
Well, you're pretty silent.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna speak when it's worthy.
but
Chief,
if we're paying $400,000 a year,
Chief put a twist in it. I mean, I was for it being a dedicated unit for Beech Mountain. But he had a good analogy about, we offer support when Banner Elk calls. And I mean, I'm going to split hairs when I say this. What if there's a call and it's, just right outside the Beech Mountain city limits and it's life-threatening? I mean, the whole purpose of this, and I agree, I mean, I'm a taxpayer too. $400,000 is a lot of money, but the unit is up here to save lives. So I support, for the most part, the unit staying on Beech Mountain, as much as possible. But I think we need to allow Chief Putney an opportunity to maybe see if there is a way that we can serve our neighbors, that it doesn't interfere with the service that we provide to the taxpayers.
Response time, chief response time, right? If we had it housed up here and it did go on a call, like Councilor Abernathy said, that was a life-threatening situation right on the town line, and then we did get another call at the ski slopes, can we have another ambulance here in 10 minutes?
Well,
you're back to.
What we have to
45
do,
minutes.
and we need to be cognizant of this, it has to be reciprocal, because even if the first call
Exactly.
is the town of Beech Mountain resident, and we take that resident to the hospital, the next call is not going to be handled by our unit. It has to be handled
Sure.
by either Avery or Watauga.
Right.
And folks need to recognize that also.
So, and
Then
that's
we're
how,
back to
that's how the
45
fire and
minutes.
police work.
Yeah.
It's reciprocal. All I was asking was some thoughts on how to control that so it didn't become a normal business model of either one of those other systems. We can do whatever you'd like, but we have to understand that there are more than one call at a time, and we're going to rely on the system of the other two. We do today. That's the system we have today. So keep that in mind. We can certainly go back and say it does not leave the mountain except to take our patient to the hospital. We can do that. Understand that there's some unintended consequences to that, possibly where the other two systems say, fine, don't call us, or if you do, it's going to cost you such and such. I don't know. I haven't gone back to
Is there a model in Boone or Blowing Rock or something that reciprocal or with EMS, or is this just, are we? I know we're in our little bubble up here, but I was just
Blowing
kind
Rock
of
is-
wondering how
Blowing Rock is
other
dealing with the
smaller
same issue.
towns did.
Blowing Rock has been dealing with the same issue. They've approached the county of Watauga to put a unit there, and they're eagerly watching what we're doing.
Okay.
It's not going to cost anything for you to go through the exercise of maybe of how we can extend it out somewhat, whether it's 5 minutes outside Beech Mountain or 30 minutes outside
And
Beech Mountain.
normally a call's a call.
It's-
I mean,
and-
your insurance is going to pay.
I just need to have some direction on where to go.
And my concern is that the potential backlash that if we say that the unit is strictly going to be for Beech Mountain, could there be any backlash with some services that we need and our residents need, that when the unit goes off Beech Mountain, the dedicated unit that goes off Beech Mountain. You know, my vote is to allow Chief to explore how we can potentially serve our neighbors within a limited area. Because there will be consequences. I think there'll be consequences if we don't, if you will, show some love to our neighbors.
I would have to make a comment here, and I'm going to give the accolades to Chief Putney. During Narnia, Chief Putney worked extensively with numerous ambulance services within our area. And had he not had the correct and the cooperation of all the ambulance services, we would have been in tremendous hot water. And I think Chief Putney can concur, correct?
Yes,
When
ma'am.
we had Narnia here, he had support from the ambulance services, and he needed a lot of it. So I think he's had experience in that, and I concur. If you have our ambulance away from here, you're going to have something, I mean, up here, you're going to need to have cooperation from the others too.
The ambulance is going,
Yeah,
It's-
10 to
it's gonna be
3,
off the
it's gonna
mountain.
be- Yeah, it's gonna be backside, front side, yeah, of the mountain.
no, what I'm
If it calls
saying,
a call, your insurance is gonna pay for that call, hopefully.
Well, we're not, I mean, the issue was.
It's just,
the
yeah,
issue
being
wasn't so much-
available.
The issue wasn't so much dollars, it's more time, response time.
response time.
That was really the whole issue.
What-
Personally, you know, we just gotta go back and say, we gotta try to limit it as little as possible, that the ambulance is off, without stepping on.
And you didn't like my idea about financial incentives?
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is, what amount would make it that they would hesitate to call us?
Well, I don't want to put the amount out in public, but if you take the number of calls we know we have on the mountain and what we're being asked to pay, some simple math, comes up with a fairly substantial number, and we could ask for that in return.
But what's that gonna gain if it's life-threatening?
Well, no.
That's the thing with that,
Someone,
yeah.
on a daily operation, it's not the managers of the county, it's someone in the field, a supervisor in the EMS gets a call and makes a decision. Send this unit, send that unit. So if this unit on Beech Mountain costs hundreds of dollars to make that decision, that supervisor's not gonna be allowed to make that decision very often,
True.
because there's going to be somebody in finance that says, what are you doing? So I just came up with that thought. How about we put into the contract that when a unit is in standby service, in other words, it's not running a call, but it's available for another call, but we don't allow it to be moved. Standby service has to be in the Beech Mountain substation, Station 2. So it can't go to Banner Elk or Newland to stand by for the next call. We make sure in the contract that it has to stand by in Beech Mountain. That may help accomplish the same thing.
I think that is what we're looking for, to
Have-
make sure
have
the
it
money
remain
is
here.
going to, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that it's stationed here on
Yeah.
standby.
on standby.
Yeah,
And we don't move it.
Yeah, I could,
But quite possibly it could run an emergency call.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I could go with
And
that.
Yes.
that's the kind of direction I need.
the whole point we have back at Buckeye is emergency calls from that side, right?
Yes.
As far, okay.
So right now, Watauga has entered into agreement with Avery County to run all of Fall Creek all the way out to the Tennessee line.
Okay.
So we interact with them on the back side of the mountain. In Avery, we interact on the front side of the mountain. So we need to be a team player in those systems because they're bigger than Beech Mountain. The problem is we're asking our taxpayers to pay the cost. So we should have, almost 100% of the benefit. understanding though that there needs to be some flexibility because I promise you, down the road, something will happen and it will be, well, that unit couldn't go. And oh, shame on, whoever made that decision, so.
Is everybody satisfied with it being a
I
backup?
feel good about it.
Everybody satisfied with that? Yes.
Standby service on Beech Mountain.
Correct.
And not the financial. Okay. Thank you.
Do you think that down the road as maybe the area grows, Beech Mountain grows, Watauga and Avery County grow, that if Beech Mountain provides the housing for EMS 24/7, that the county will support this financially? If there's a dedicated unit on Beech Mountain, that there could be an EMS station for Watauga County on Beech Mountain?
Well, that's what we asked for to begin with. And, we didn't just come out and say, we'll throw all this money at you and make it happen. We asked both systems to improve their service. We asked both systems to add additional resources. And both systems had different responses on why, but the basic end was no. This is what we provide to the taxpayers of Avery County. And we can't provide, I believe I told you this in budget, but hopefully this has already been out in public. They said we don't want to provide additional services to Beech Mountain and not to the other areas of Avery County. So, and they determined that their system is 2 units, maybe 3, on a given day, and that's what they provide. And it hasn't worked out for our people on this, our patients, our community, our visitors, our residents. It hasn't worked out.
So what's the next step into solidifying this deal?
Well, I need to go back to both. They're probably listening. We've been on the phone back and forth almost every couple days. I need to go back to both and see what we can do to make this happen. And then we'll develop an agreement that the town and whoever will enter into, and we'll bring that back to you. Obviously, I plan to do that in September.
So is that an amendment that'll hit the budget if we decide to do this? Because I know we were we hadn't put that in there.
We have it funded
Okay.
in this budget, and it'll have to be funded in every future budget, so it won't require an amendment in this budget.
Okay.
And so it'll be discussed in January, February, in upcoming budget. And we've gotten the number down, plus, the ambulance, Mountain Ambulance has donated $100,000, 25% of our costs. So we'll have a final number, we'll have an agreement drawn up. Both agreements between Watauga and Avery currently need to be renegotiated. They each have individual agreements that deal with Beech Mountain, and those will have to be renegotiated between those 2 entities. So there's a number of boxes we have to check and a number of political entities we have to deal with. But I need to get, I needed your permission on how you wanted me to proceed before we can go too much further. I think I've reached the limit of what I can do as a mayor. And I have that now, so we'll move forward. And you should expect to see something in September. Hopefully it's a draft agreement. If not, it'll be an update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody all right?
Yeah.
Good?
Good.
Yes, sir. Okay. All right, now, we're going to discuss speed limit on Parkway. I'd like to get some ideas from council members about reducing it to 15 miles an hour. As we know, we're moving everything there, the sledding hill, the bathroom, the dog park, the playground, the walking trail ends there. We also have the parking entrance and going to be there. So there's going to be quite a bit of traffic going up and down that road. Plus we'll have a lot of people walking, children, and people with dogs. So the question is what's the council member's thought process?
I'm there pretty much every day, and a good handful of people pretty much race up there to unload their trash for whatever reason.
I'm
But,
all for 15. There's too many
But how do you
entities
enforce
coming and
that?
going.
Well, that's my
your
question. You
thing,
can make
is
it
that you have
15,
police cars sitting
but it
there
boils down to enforcement.
all
You
day.
could do the little
Right.
Sign thing?
electronic sign. You could try that, or.
And we can't do the speed bumps because of snow, so
Well, I mean,
you could, but
being close to it here, the police can patrol it a lot easier than, down at Pine Ridge or down at the end.
right.
I mean, when they leave here, they can go up the road and see what's going on. So,
I mean, you can put the signs up, but
I'm
who does
opposed.
signs?
I remember when this came up with previous council, that there was 3 or 4 roads that were lowered from 25 to 15. And I travel those roads, and the people still come past me doing 25. I agree from a safety standpoint, but if my concern, when we voted on this, I don't know, Barry, 3 years ago, or whenever it was, is that it would set a precedent, open up Pandora's box. And so if we change the speed limit on, look at this so I can pronounce it correctly, Parkway, say that with a mouthful of
I
crackers.
thought it was water tank way.
So if we change the speed limit there, then we're gonna have other folks, well, they're gonna come up with conditions that why we should change it on their road. I think that if the police monitor it, and when I say monitor it, going up and down at a reasonable rate, and we put signage, with the, kids or crossing and whatever, even though if it's 15, they're still gonna do 25. The speed limit isn't gonna change them from not speeding. I'm opposed to it. I think that it's gonna set a precedent with other areas on Beech Mountain that want their
It's not
roads changed to
residential,
15.
the only way I look at it,
I tend to
if you
agree,
look at the club-
it's either all or nothing. You've got to either say,
What a
town of
racetrack
Beech
or
Mountain is, 25 miles per hour, 15, whatever it is.
You look
And if
Look
we-
at all the people that walk on Beech Mountain Parkway. I
Yeah.
mean, you go by your place, you go by Fred's, when you're
going.
walking down Beech Mountain Parkway, I mean, these cars are going,
Then can we add
35
signage?
miles. I think
Or can we add
I
signage?
think signage is smart.
if we add signage, and if the police will, whatever they can come up with to monitor, not monitor, but if there are cars coming through there fast, then try to set the pace. Occasionally go up and down, travel the road.
About halfway past Jimmy's,
Yeah.
before you come right to the bar park, or halfway up.
But I do think it's comical that I'm going 15 miles per hour and people are telling me to slow down. Going up, what is it again? Bark Park?
Bark.
Bark Parkway.
Park Parkway.
So I've had people tell me to slow down and I'm going 15.
And it will,
It's no-
but get more
It's
crowded.
all in, yeah.
It's no different than the folks that are walking on Beech Mountain Parkway. I think we need to leave the speed limit alone. That's my
You make
vote.
comments at the time when it's due.
Why don't you make it just a one-way
We can.
and come out?
We
where
can.
you have
We
been?
can.
Not the way it's.
Mayor, would it help if we had the police department move one of our radar signs? It captures numbers of vehicles and their speed.
Yes.
Gather some
Oh,
data.
that's
Like the
smart.
one in
Yeah.
Banner Oak, like the one in Banner Oak.
Well, it doesn't say thank you and you're terrible. But it
Or, but in the
But it
big size,
does,
it
it
just
does
says,
gather
you
your
know.
peak speeds and gives you some averages, maybe get some data.
So it wasn't a problem until we hit the
All it
convenience
does, the
center.
only thing it tells them is that 10 cars went 30
Right.
miles an hour.
Right.
And what time of day it did.
It gives our peak and our,
The sign,
Just put the sign.
the sign, if we have some signage there, but we could also have the billboard that we have and put, congested area.
Or you could just
use-
park a
use
police
cau-
car there.
Use caution,
With
you know.
nobody in it?
That's
Pretty
correct.
much.
And use the portable sign that we have and park
They're
it there.
parked across the street, just put a police
Let's
car there.
put it to use.
Yeah, but that's not a solution, it's just a band-aid.
True.
The sign?
Yeah. What are you gonna do, keep the sign there every day?
No, I mean,
It's like any other road up here.
Move it around periodically.
Once you change one road, then you're changing,
I mean, when we look
I
at
don't
all,
disagree with that, but not every road has parking lots and entrances. egresses,
that's
a
true.
playground,
That's
type
true.
of
That's a
thing.
good point,
A
Jimmy.
sledding hill, a business,
and in
a
winter,
sidewalk.
in winter, they're gonna be
crossing
forced to
paths.
go 4 miles an
Just
hour.
remember, the club, all around the club is 15 miles an hour.
Yeah. Another good point.
Just remember
What's,
that.
Yeah.
what's the argument against a speed bump?
Plowing,
Plowing. You
And
can't.
we don't mark it or fix it
Plowing.
again?
plowing the road.
Well, a speed bump would not be advantageous, a speed hump would be
Or just, sure.
instead of the little pile of,
Yeah.
that we crack off, it would be a hump.
We're just going down the same road as
Yeah.
leashing dogs and
Well, on
all
one
that
hand, we're
kind of
talking
stuff
about
once we
safety
start
with
changing.
EMS, and on the other hand, we're talking
Yeah.
about a racetrack.
And I know, it's a big
Playgrounds and
point for
kids.
you because, yeah.
So,
you wanna keep-
just remember that when it's
People
packed
safe.
full for ski
Right.
season,
Yeah.
and you got cars racing up there.
Absolutely.
We're talking about,
And people trying to park back there. and
We
going
could,
sliding on the road.
We could put a crosswalk into our new parking lot from the Bark Park area. We could, paint that, stripe it, it'd be a visual bark, and we could put some signage up with the crosswalk signage.
And in the
I
wintertime,
think
when we
that's
have
good.
snow, we can get some of the dogs to come down and mark the snow.
At the university,
Oh, yeah.
Nobody stops.
You take your life in your
and they
hands.
had the lights up top.
You take your life in your hands when you step out there. But
I
it'd
mean,
be a
we could
visual.
start with
it'd be a
signage
visual,
and see
you know,
where the signage goes.
yeah, at least children that play sign, something
Yep.
to at least caution people.
Yep.
I can do that.
Well, let's have a consensus,
I'm on signage.
okay?
I'd like to revisit
Same
signage, doesn't work good.
signage and leave it at 25.
I say we try signage, and I agree with Councilman McCarty. If that does not work, then we revisit it. Because in the winter, they're gonna be forced to slow down. There'll be so many cars, they'll be crawling bumper to bumper. I can see it now. Going up there, dumping garbage, pulling around behind pizza, going up the sliding hill. We're just moving traffic back from the old sliding hill to behind the one.
Chief, do we plan on striping that road?
Yes. Yeah,
Double or single?
single. I mean, I can do whatever you want, but that's
No, I
what we
don't think there's
budgeted.
enough room for double.
You know.
That's all I was asking.
We had just decided to do the two whites and a yellow.
Okay, so what we'll do is, you put some signage, and maybe the crosswalk.
Crosswalk, she'll
Try
let
to
it play.
crosswalk, do that, and we'll revisit in a while and see if.
I think winter's gonna be our big key.
If it
See
works,
what
then
happens.
we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that right away.
I'm just concerned with everybody walking and all the
Right.
children,
Children that
especially
play,
move the dog park
people with
there.
dogs, yeah, that may be walking.
We have
on
the same problem
walking-
right now on Beech Mountain Parkway with no sidewalks, so it's
Yeah,
same
but that's a whole different.
with, yeah. Sorry.
At the end of the meeting, you have an opportunity to voice whatever you'd like to. Next is Mr. Wilson King has got a presentation to make. Bob?
Wilson, come on up. Tell us what you did for us. Let me introduce him. Wilson came to me, actually, when I became the manager, Wilson sent me a letter that had a whole list of things on it, all very good. And I met with him and we started ticking those off a few at a time. And one of the things that he asked us to do was take a look at the town and see if we could get certified as a wildlife habitat. And because of Wilson's efforts, that has been done. The town of Beech Mountain has been certified, and I asked Wilson to come present the plaque to you today and tell us how important this is. And I did send him the issue on the bees. They received that.
I'll let you hold on to that so I don't drop it on my toe.
Got it.
Before I start, I'll give my normal preamble. Anytime I speak before in the public, I always realize that I make mistakes, and I beg your indulgence. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I always try to tell the truth, and sometimes the truth is disheartening to people. So please don't be offended. And one thing before I start, our chaplain has left, but he was talking about a subject that if you have an interest in that World War II and the War with Japan, I recommend you read a book called Flyboys. I think it was by David McCullough, but I'm not sure. There were two Flyboys. There was one about World War I, and it's fairly tame compared to the one about World War II. It talks about a lot of horrific events, and you can bet on that. When I'll ask for indulgence for a few minutes on some background, and then maybe a few more minutes for some philosophy. About 5 years ago, I guess it was, the present council, or the then council, asked for some input on some items they could discuss for a work session. And I thought, well, I've got some input, I'll make a list. I lingered, and I was slow in turning it in, so I missed the deadline. But I decided to write a letter and include a lot of those subjects. Ironically enough, the first item on the list was lowering the speed limit on our gravel roads to 15 miles an hour. This is not an industrial town, and we don't have industrial thoroughfares. Our roads are not made for high-speed traffic. They're narrow, they have a lot of curves, and they're used for different purposes. The people who walk their dogs, who walk their grandparents and their kids, and so forth, and the bicyclists, which I am one, have as much right to use our roads as the motorists do, and maybe even more so. And I'll tell you, it's a frightening situation when you are on a bicycle and a big truck comes around a curve at 20 or 30 miles an hour, and you wonder, will I make it? We need to have standards. There's nothing wrong, and we shouldn't be embarrassed by setting a speed limit that's reasonable. The average person in this country has gone crazy, and where they're behind the wheel, I guarantee you they'll exhibit that craziness. I can tell you some experiences, but I won't delay the point right now. But we have lowered the speed limit on some roads, but gravel roads, but I would say we should lower it on every road. That area over there will be a catastrophe if we don't lower the speed limit. And it needs to be enforced, and everybody, town council members, police, the volunteer firefighters, everybody should realize that when the speed limit says 15 miles an hour, you should be going 15 miles an hour. Not 20, not 25, but 15. That's a safe thing, and it does set a standards. If you set it at 35, guess what? Somebody said, well, they're going to be going 45. Well, 45 is too fast up here. We need to have standards. The second thing on my list was to rationalize our road maintenance program. At that time, we had a motor grader running about 24/7, scraping our roads. It seemed like it was 24/7, and it may not have been quite that much, but it was pretty regular. I suggested that we use scouting and identify the areas on a road that were problems, fix those areas, and leave the rest to be. A gravel road that's left alone will pretty much settle out. It'll become smoother, quieter, produce less dust. And if we leave grass on the side of the roads, it will sort of make it look better, plus it will keep a lot of gravel on the road. And Matt Stokes was here, and he would have plenty of extra work to do if we would simply not scrape our roads shoulder to shoulder, but leave some gravel. All over this country, we're understanding that pollinators are under stress, and I think you got a little mailing from me on that. Pollination is responsible for a great deal of our food, and I think what it said was, if we go, we'll take you with us. That was Beech talking. States are putting wildflowers on the sides of highways. North Carolina puts wildflowers in the medians on our interstates if you ever go east of here. Now, I don't know how bees fare in 90-mile-an-hour traffic, but Beech Mountain would be an ideal place to use wildflowers both for beautification and for support to insects, pollinators that do us a great service. So I would suggest we consider doing that. At the time, I said we ought to do a commercial vehicle ordinance. That gives us more control over our roads. And again, our roads are important. It's not like the roads in a lot of places that everybody on the road is in a car. We have a lot of people doing other things besides driving a car. Banner Elk, for instance, has done their citizens a service. They have outlawed those engine brakes. If you don't know what an engine brake is, it allows a truck driver to go way too fast and then slow down in an easy manner. It's not the fact that he can't slow down, but he's going too fast to start off with. So we ought to consider that as well. Another thing we talked about, or I suggested, was that we pursue the Dark Sky Initiative. It's hard for me to understand why people think that the ambience of a Walmart parking lot is appropriate for a residential neighborhood, with orange street lights and spotlights shining in every direction. The Dark Skies Initiative has suggestions and ideas on how to keep lights facing down towards the ground rather than up in the sky. Beech Mountain being on top of a mountain, the town of Beech Mountain on top of a mountain, is an ideal place to observe the heavens. You can't see the heavens anymore because everything else, ambient lighting is so bright that you just can't see. So that was an important thing. I thought about revising or revisiting our nuisance ordinance and our noise ordinance with the idea of lowering the overall noise level on the mountain. All these things would go together to making Beech Mountain or supporting the existing atmosphere of being a safe, clean, quiet place to be. I think everybody here would rather have that than the alternative. And I know that our citizens, and I'm talking about our two-legged citizens, our four-legged citizens, and our no-legged citizens, they all deserve to have a safe environment and a safe place to be. That's where the wildlife sanctuary came from. And I thought, well, our wildlife is one of our most important assets. We need to look after it. So I proposed that we become a wildlife sanctuary. I did have one proviso, that the town issue a formal apology to Leslie Hayhurst for the shoddy way it treated her. Now that train has left the station, unfortunately, but I know Leslie would be happy if she knew we were making progress. A couple of months ago, I met with Chief Pudney, as he alluded to, and we talked about some of the issues on my list, primarily the Dark Skies Initiative and the Wildlife Sanctuary. He said, well, I'll look into it. And I might have assumed that he meant he would look into the bottom of the trash can as the notes from our meeting reached the bottom. He might have given me an answer that I've heard so many times before, and I call the words the most insidious words in the municipal lexicon, and that is, oh, we can't do anything about that. Chief Pudney apparently thinks the same way I do. This is Beech Mountain and we can do something about it. This is Beech Mountain and we can do better. And so he said I'm the spark plug for this thing, but that is all. Chief Pudney was the heat behind getting this done, not me, and he deserves all the credit. But we have a recognition now from the National Wildlife Federation. We are certified wildlife habitat. This property is recognized for its commitment to sustainability, provide essential elements of wildlife habitat, food, water, cover, and places to raise young. And I hope everybody will subscribe to this and support our wildlife and our nature and our environment. It's important. Without these things, we really don't have very much. So, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wilson, hold the sign up, let's take a picture.
She'll take it.
Yeah, we'd like to keep it.
Yeah, we need a picture of you. It's a big deal.
Come up there, do with the mayor.
Chief or mayor?
No, the mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
get up with
I
Wilson.
think it should be the mayor.
There you go.
Be the mayor.
Chief, come on. Can we get in the middle of this?
Yeah,
No, you mayor.
We should get
You're
all
the
we
boss.
should get on the other side.
Guys,
There you go.
That-
Perfect. Keep
Yes.
smiling.
that way with the seal behind you.
You're left or
Yes.
right?
All right.
Well
All
done.
right, turn it in towards each other, please. Put it in the middle.
How's that?
Don't be shy, Mayor.
All right, look this way, guys. 1, 2, 3. All right, one more. 1, 2, 3.
Well done.
Thank you.
We'll put that up. Town hall. It'll be a plaque.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, Mr. Bob, you're up.
Mayor, I've got a lengthy report today, so I apologize for that. I'll run through it as quickly as I can, and please stop me if you've got some questions. I'd like to start off with our COVID-19 update. Obviously, you've been watching the news. We've been interfacing with the state governor's office as well as Watauga and Avery County. The Delta variant is increasing in cases in Watauga and Avery County. That it's important to note to you and the public that the town is following the state executive orders. If the governor issues an executive order, we will follow it. What we're not doing is responding to the number of other entities who are saying mandate vaccination for employees or additional testing or things like that. So I am in contact with Watauga County, the state, and Avery County on a weekly basis. I have a weekly conference call, and if something changes, we have additional calls. And I want everybody to know, the council, the public, that we're following the executive orders issued by the governor in the state of North Carolina and not other municipalities. You may have read that the town of Boone put in some criteria for their town, and we are not bound by that, and as well as other entities within their corporate limits. For instance, App State and the school board did not follow that. I've received quite a few calls and emails about, why isn't the town of Beech Mountain doing this or doing that? And unless you tell me differently, we're going to follow the governor's executive orders. Our good news, our SRF loan. If you recall, some months ago, I told you that we had a future water and sewer project that had been, we got approved for the sewer side, and we didn't get approved for the water side through the SRF. That really wasn't doable, because when we dig up the road, we need to put both in, not put the sewer in and then come back years later to do the water. So we reapplied to the state, and we received notice 2 weeks ago that the water section was approved. We're moving it quickly so that it catches up to the sewer project, and that will, our next submittal is this December, and our construction should start in 23-24 budget. It's important to note that percentage loan is 1.16%, 20 years, for several $1 million. So it was a very good rate. We are very pleased to be approved for that, and our design and our engineering is continuing. On Republic Services and Trash, I know we're having a meeting next week, but I wanted to get this to you today as well, because I think most of the discussion next week may be from the residential side. But on the commercial and multifamily, there's a lot of misinformation spreading in the community concerning that town hall meeting. I had a meeting with the Republic group last week, and they were very concerned. As you know, we have signed a franchise with them, and we've signed a contract with them, and they, based on that signature, they went out and established a substantial capital investment, having dumpsters built and getting things ready to go. They, as I told you, Peggy Poston from Republic and Daniel Davis from our Public Works are meeting with those commercial accounts and those multifamily accounts. And what they're being told is, we're just waiting for the 17th because we were going to ask the council to change it so that Republic isn't the provider. And that has that was concerning to them at the meeting last week. Certainly, the meeting on the 17th is to receive input from the community, hopefully to also give information to the community to handle some of this misinformation. But you need to know, and the public needs to know, that Republic has gone forward with what we told them to do, and there's been substantial capital investment in equipment, dumpsters, to bring that forward. To that end, we agreed that next Tuesday, Daniel Davis, myself, and Peggy Poston from Republic, we will take the list of accounts that have not come up with either a location or agreement or signed the agreement, and we'll begin meeting with them individually to move that process along. So we'll be taking care of that. Republic is ready to go. After the conference call and the meeting we had last week, we got back on track, and we're still ready for the October 1st cutover.
And we're still at mid-September on opting out? Was that where,
September 1st.
September 1st.
was it, okay,
Well, now
September 1st.
There's some misinformation. The opting out is for single-family residential
Right.
customers only, and that do not rent.
But it got moved from
August 1st to September 1st.
September 1st.
So that we
Okay.
could, the mayor wanted to make sure that after the meeting on the 17th, there was some time to do that.
Okay.
There's been a tremendous amount of misinformation in the community, which Sandy Carr spoke to. A number of people who have opted out then called me 2 weeks later and say, "Why didn't you pick up my garbage?"
Okay.
They were under the, even though that it's clearly specifies in the form, they were under the impression that if they didn't opt out, they had to buy a $1,000 trash bin, and they don't rent in their single-family home, and that's not true. So we've had probably 10% of the people who opted out rescind their opt-out form because they want their garbage picked up twice a week at the curbside. And it's been difficult for the staff at Town Hall, which is why we don't give that form out online. We ask people to come in so we can explain it to them, because a good portion of the public does not understand what that opt-out meant. That has been extended to September 1st at direction of the mayor, so that after the 17th, there's still a time frame to do that. But that does not apply to commercial accounts and multifamily over 4. Some of those were under the impression that they could opt out or actually go to the Board of Adjustment to get a waiver, so they didn't have to have dumpsters or use Republic. And there's been a lot of misinformation passed along.
But there's been no change in the sanitation bill, whether they opt out or not.
It does not change.
Okay. Just so people know.
We're offering
Yeah.
twice a week curbside pickup, access to the convenience center, the 4 pickups per year of debris, yard debris. That's all the same. All right. Interesting enough, I was served with papers from the state about a fuel spill that happened 27 years ago. And the state just got around to finalizing and it was a surprise to me, finalizing this account. It was mitigated by Eggers Construction in 1994. It happened at the Public Works facility. There was a fuel tank leak. And it was very difficult for me to find people. I talked to Riley Hatch, and difficult to find people that recall this, and we had limited documentation. So the state did soil tests back then and found that it had been mitigated, but there was still residual hydrocarbons in the soil, and that there was no groundwater contamination. And they would like to close this out 27 years later. So they sent me a very formal letter on how to close it out. And we hired an engineering firm that we had used prior, SM&E, out of Asheville to complete the process, and they are completing the process for us. It's important for you to know that it requires public notice, which we've made, and it requires a deed restriction on that piece of property, which we've done. So we're waiting for the state, the 30-day window for the state to issue us a no further action required letter, and we'll put this to bed. But what I wanted to let you know is that popped up, and it was another one of those irons in the fire.
So what were the services that the firm in Asheville are providing?
They are handling the soil analysis, the certification that it's no further action is required by the state, and they did the public notice and to the property owners, as well as get us to have the state finalize this project.
What did that cost?
I don't have a final bill. It's not, we piggyback that into our public works construction project because it's part of the public works mitigation. We're actually paving over the area now. This was the testing company that did our soil tests for the public works. So we asked them to do an additional soil test where this leak was 27 years ago before we paved over it.
So it's not a hazard at this point?
It is not, and we expect to have it resolved soon with a no further action letter of determination from the state. But you need to know that. I'll get you a number.
27 years.
Paving and striping, our contractor's on the mountain. If you haven't seen, he visited across the street, did a fantastic job on the parking lot over there. And we've got several projects underway. Wegling Way is being resurfaced today. The parking lot will be paved next week.
Quick question on that. I know we talked about signage for pedestrians going down Wegling Way. I can never say that, but.
Wegling Way.
Yes, thank you. So where did we end up with trying to keep pedestrians off Beech Mountain Parkway?
Okay, that's a TDA project. And
Okay.
we refer to that as the Fork Trail. We were just finalizing the easements on the North Fork that goes behind the hotels. And the fork that you're talking about, we're still working on an easement to go from the Parkway to Skiway Circle, which gets us to Wegling Way.
Okay.
So that's a TDA project that they funded, and we're making progress on there, but we're still short one easement right now to make that happen.
Thank you.
So on the parking lot, as I said, we'll be paving it either the end of this week or beginning of next week. What I did want to discuss with you in a little bit of detail is the operation that I proposed. There's a firm called Auto Connect that will provide the application and the payment structure for the pay for parking there. There's no meters and there's no gates, and there is no upfront capital cost to the town for us to begin operation there. It's a proposed 2-year agreement, and they receive 15% of the gross plus 49 cents per transaction. That's the cost that the third party charges when you use your mobile pay. We have projected revenues on that. And basically how it works is there's signage, you go in, there's a QR code that you use your phone, and you can prepay for parking, and it reminds you 15 minutes prior to the expiration on your phone, and you can, without leaving where you are, add additional parking to it. What I like about this is that we don't have any upfront costs. We had costed out meters, we had costed out gates and kiosks. and there was between $80,000 and $100,000 of upfront costs, notwithstanding the maintenance. So this is totally touchless. You use your phone. There's substantial signage in the parking lot that tells you how to do it and what the rates are. And I expect to bring that agreement to you in September. And we're real close to having that agreement ready to go.
Can you use a credit card or old-fashioned quarters?
No, there's no cash. Your credit card would be on your phone.
Like Apple Pay?
Like Apple Pay, you can use PayPal, or you can use your credit card on this app. And this company then manages that payment and sends a check to the town every 30 days on the net proceeds less their 15%.
How do they monitor if somebody leaves without paying?
Well, we are going to take on that responsibility with a Parks and Rec employee. We anticipate having them there, monitoring the Bark Park, the Sledding Hill, and once the bathroom is built, there's an office there. And a couple times a day, they'll circulate through the parking lot. They record on a phone the license plate number, and it tells through this auto connect if they have paid and for how long. There's a 15-minute that's programmable. There's a grace period. And then that device can print out a parking ticket. And then Auto Connect collects the ticket, the fine, if you will, and remits that to us, and they do the collections.
So if the person doesn't, say he goes every 15 minutes, or just as an arbitration number, so he gets there 10 minutes late, and somebody leaves, how does that get recorded?
They normally
I'm
chalk
not sure.
the tires, don't they?
No.
Don't they chalk the tires? to
It's
see how
done
long
by
they-
license plate number, but
How would it, my question is, I pull in, I stay there 2 hours, but I only put on my app 1 hour, and I drive out.
if we don't catch you in that hour, it's free.
Free.
Yeah.
That was your point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you gotta have somebody that's, what's the frequency of someone, first of all, have you spoken to other municipalities that have used this program to
Yes.
see how it worked?
North Topsail Beach has 4 parking lots that they use this system on their beach, and they have a lot of turnover in it. And they actually contract with the company to do the enforcement and do the circulation through. Their town manager is out. He's got some medical issues, but I've talked to their assistant manager. They like the system because they used to have meters, and they could never keep them working. If you recall, I told you that we went to Boone, who has meters, and they have about 40% failure at any given time. And they have a fairly large budget to maintain their equipment, plus personnel costs. Topsail Beach had kiosks with gates, and because of the salt air, they could not keep those working. So they went with this totally open, and they tell me that their revenues went up and their expenses went down. So I thought I'd bring it to you. It's we don't have salt, but we have snow. And winter time, the meters use solar panels to charge the battery to have them work. And a lot of Boone's problem is the solar panels don't work. And they have, like I said, a substantial number of meter heads that they have to change out. Plus they have a substantial labor cost. So what we're trying to do is maximize our income with minimize our labor costs.
So will there be free parking after a certain hour?
Well, that's up to you. I would say no. It's a 24-hour lot. The TDA funded some electric vehicle charging stations. And my thought is that, those are available 24 hours a day. If you want to go park and charge your vehicle, we'd like some revenue from that. But it can be set up any way the council wants it to be set up. What I'm bringing to you is a 24-hour parking lot that has various rates, hourly rate, daily rate, through this app open system.
But if there's like an event up here on a Friday or Saturday night or whatever night, and cars parked there after 8 PM, you're gonna have an attendant that goes in there periodically and checks, a town employee that checks the license plates.
If you want to enforce it, but the town of Topsail closes at 5, but it's a 24-hour lot, and they tell me that at least 80% of their people are honest and pay. We've projected an 80% pay rate. It would not be feasible for us to pay an employee to monitor it 24 hours a day.
True.
I can have a police officer drive through there on patrol, and we would do that. But that's, the whole idea is not to increase our personnel costs, but to provide additional parking with some revenue.
So the bottom line is, we're assuming 20% we're not going to collect.
Correct.
Okay.
With no upfront cost?
There's no
2
upfront
years.
cost. It's a 2-year agreement.
2-year agreement.
Yep. We would renew it, we would review it in 12 months to see if the revenue projections were good. At this point, our costs would be almost negligible. We've got a printer to buy for the print the ticket. But our costs would be almost negligible, and it would increase our net revenue. And if it didn't work in 2 years, after we evaluate it in 12 months, we can go in another direction.
I don't see what we have to lose trying it. Now the penalty, who gets the revenue from the penalty?
We do.
Is it still 15% split
Yeah.
on the penalty?
Well, it's net, it's gross revenue. 15% goes to the company to manage the lot and manage this pay,
System.
and plus 49 cents per transaction. And that's a pass-through of what they're using for their,
49 cents, and we can set it at $1 or $2. That doesn't fluctuate.
you mean the hourly rate? The hourly rate you can set, we set it in our proposal so that they could calculate what the revenue projections would be.
And not to question you, how did we come up with our projections for the revenue?
Well, I relied upon them on their history, and I said, we want to see what will work, and I obviously won't want to recoup our 15% and our 49 cents per transaction. We don't want to break even.
Yeah.
And so they proposed a $3 per hour, $25 per day proposal, and I've got that broken down for you for revenue projections with an 80% collection rate.
And this is taking the picture with the phone to get the code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that was conservative?
Well, we all agreed when we sat down to be conservative. I don't want to tell you in September what the projected revenues are and then fall short.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
And tell you, this is what I told you we were going to make, and wow, look what we did.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think we've been conservative. That was the direction that we had as a group.
Cool.
The issue will be, does this sound good to you? And we'll finalize it, and I'll bring it to you in September for a vote.
Different rates for buses, RVs, or anything larger vehicles?
We did not put that into the
I think we do
mix.
RVs.
Or any large vehicles, I wasn't sure.
It's, the hourly rate would be by license plate.
Okay.
So if you have a license plate, that would be the hourly
Yes.
rate you would pay. It does, we had talked about it reminding you to, if you're in Brick Oven or you're on the resort skiing and your parking needs more money, you can do that
Sure.
remotely.
Yeah.
You don't have to get back to the.
And I guess I did say that you can't park an RV there and sleep there and just
No.
pay a little quarter.
No.
Okay. good.
No,
I wanna
our
make sure we're
ordinances
protected.
would cover that.
Okay.
We probably will adjust our parking ordinance to cover this type of function because we currently don't have that in our parking schedule.
Uh-huh.
So I haven't talked with the town attorney yet, but that may be something we'll bring to you as well.
Yes, sir. And then also on the parking lot, will we be planting any kind of trees or wildflowers or anything to
Well, trees certainly, if you've seen I'm sure you've seen it, we've got some islands and
I've seen
things.
your status, yeah.
So those will be vegetation.
Okay.
Trees, grass, something we can maintain, but I know you know this, but, you know, in wintertime, we've got to push snow somewhere.
Correct.
And we've designed it so that there are some downhill areas we can store snow. Which will, the reason I bring that up, that will restrict what we can plant.
Okay.
You know, I can't put too many big trees and then not be able to move snow.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, the bathroom at Bark Park and Sledding Hill, the contract was awarded. I had to go back to the TDA for additional funding because of the cost of materials and the way building has increased since we went to them the first time. They voted unanimously to approve the increase. So thank you to the TDA. They will, that contract's been let and that construction has started. You should note that part of the contractor's agreement was that he would have it completed, substantially completed by Thanksgiving. We needed it before, you know, snow on the hill. The E911 telephone system cutover has been postponed until September 30th. I wouldn't hold my breath that it'll happen then, but Chief Barnett is working diligently with the state to take care of that. Genesis, Genesis approached me and said they would like to terminate the lease with the town. There's about 45 years left on that lease. They indicated they would like to terminate that lease. The town attorney drafted a lease termination agreement. That's been sent to their president, and I'm waiting signature and return to us. At that point, in September 14th, I believe is the date, if that's agreeable with Genesis, the town will take over that property again. We've agreed to be responsible to clear it and clean it, and it will be returned to natural state.
That's the Buckeye property.
Next door to Buckeye where the Genesis, where the dome building is. and the-
Yeah, gotcha.
Who's responsible for the property now? Is there a principal?
There's somebody living there.
Well, we own it,
Yeah.
and Genesis has a long-term lease.
Right.
They are responsible for the property, maintenance, utilities, and things like that. They wish to terminate that lease, and then we'll take over the property
But
again.
there's no animals there.
There's no animals.
Okay.
There's some structure, there's the dome building, there's some structure, there's some substantial cages and things like that, but there's no animals.
Okay.
The end of summer bash, I did tell the chief I'd note this. It's a national night out for Beech Mountain. It's August 31st, 4 to 7, and it's across the street. And we encourage everybody to come out, meet the police across from Town Hall in the parking in the field area, and see some of the equipment, have some food and some games and things like that, and hopefully we'll have a helicopter in there, and the chief is working hard to make that happen. Shane Park, I wanted to just give you an update. If you take a look at the report from Parks and Rec, we've had great use on that camping area. We've had 27 reservations made, people camping there, and 18 out of 31 days the campsite, at least one has been occupied, and on several occasions we've had more than 2 or 3 campsites. So I must admit, for something I didn't think would be an attraction, it's going very well. And we're making some revenue off of
Are
it.
they doing overnighters or just day
No, they're all-
trippers or?
They're
Because I
overnight.
saw the $730 and I was just wondering if that was all overnight.
That's overnight.
Overnight, okay. And then, the Emerald Outback, the close to 10,000 people going through there, is there any outlook on that, or is that still?
There is, and we're
Sitting
still
out there.
negotiating that with the property
Okay.
owner.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. Avery County is hosting a household hazardous waste collection August 28th. It's 9 to 3 in Newland behind the extension building. They're taking paints, pesticides, batteries, etc. And I've given that to the town clerk to post on our website. We continuously get calls on where do I get rid of paint? This is the place to do it. Buckeye Lake, lack of rain Water's below the spillway, has been for about 7 days. That's a trigger point with our state release. If we don't get substantial rain in the next 7 to 10 days, we can expect that I'll be contacting you for some restrictions. We are monitoring it daily. You should know that we've adjusted the operation of the water plant so that we draw water out of the lakes in a more controlled fashion, slower, and we're running the well 12 hours a day. But without some rain, substantial rain in that watershed, we're going to have some restrictions.
Chief, do you,
When are we gonna start use the first well? Have we got anything from the state yet?
It's been submitted to the state, and no, we haven't got an answer. Mayor, I think the best guess will be spring of '22 before we can pump the first gallon into the system from that well. The second well did very well down there by the sewer plant, and that will be about 6 months after. What we're doing is we're coming up with a standard well treatment facility, although it has to be adjusted a little based on the water quality. But after we get the first one permitted, it should make the second one go quicker.
do you have an update on the Lake Coffee project?
Lake Coffee, we're still working on putting the agreement together. It's more complex than maybe I had initially thought about. And then we'll be meeting with the resort. Everything's on track. The engineering continues. We selected the engineer. We did the RFQ. The engineering continues, the permitting continues. So what we're waiting on is the agreement, and then get together with the resort to make that happen. That was Lake Coffee. That was my next thing. Talk to you about the EMS. And then, of course, in case you'd forgotten, there's a town hall scheduled for the 17th at Buckeye Rec Center at 5 o'clock. The topic is trash, and we will be there. I've prepared a short PowerPoint presentation to sort of get everybody up to speed on why we are where we are today, where we were and where we are today, and then open it up, obviously, to the public. Let's see. Mayor, that's my report, unless there's any questions on the staff reports.
Anybody have questions on the staff
I
report?
think I covered mine.
No.
Everybody good?
Good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Bob. Town council comments, Mr. McCarty?
First, Dr. and Mrs., thank you very much for your generous donation to get this ball rolling. We look forward to it. Second, I'd like to congrats to Michael Holland, the new hire that you hired, Bob. I think that's a great addition. Next is, I saw the 27 campers on Shane Park. I thought that was great. You know, I was shocked by that. And then lastly is a huge thank you. They're not here right now, but Daniel and Matthew, I noticed, I think it was like within a week range, there was 2 water leak busted lines. And I was up Friday night and wrapping up the restaurant, and I saw truckers coming down at like 1:30 in the morning. And they had started at 4, 5 o'clock, I think, in the afternoon, after working a full day. So just, they do a lot of work that we don't see, and I think next time any of us see it, I would just let them know how much we appreciate all those guys and the work they're doing. That's all I have there.
Okay, Cindy?
I also wanted to thank the doctor for his support. He has been so supportive of this project from the onset, and to have him here with the history of how everything started from the beginning and where we're going is so important and critical. We're moving in the right direction, and I know this will be advantageous to our town. So much appreciated, and thank you so much for that. I'd also like to, because TDA is represented today. That's Kate, underneath the mask.
No.
That's not Kate? Okay, I thought that was Kate.
Just leave her.
Oh, okay. I was gonna thank
You get a Sandy.
Okay, there you go, we'll get Sandy. Well, I want to thank TDA because TDA does so many things to support our town that a lot of our residents, summer and or year-round, are not aware of. And so there are things that they add to, and immediately step up and help us financially. And so a lot of had people come and approach me and say, is that going to increase our taxes? And my response is no. In fact, the town gave money back because our TDA stepped up and paid for that. So we work hand in hand. But they've been so supportive more than ever this past year that it's greatly appreciated. And I think that our residents need to be aware of that, that we're now working hand in hand with several entities. And the only other thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank once again Chief Putney for the leadership that he's doing, because he's juggling multiple projects and everything he's doing. My final thing is I'm so excited that we're now a wildlife supportive refuge. I mean, I was out feeding deer out of my hand today about 1 o'clock, and I'm guilty of it, but you know what? I'm sorry. We live in their environment, and that's part of it. And so I'm not ashamed to say it and very proud to say it, that that's part of Beech Mountain. I watched a family sit on the golf course at about 7:45 last night, surrounded by a family of deer, and they waited till dark to walk in on the cart path because they were in awe, and so weren't their children, for things that are so unique like that that they wouldn't normally see where they live. So we live in their environment, and I think sometimes folks forget about that. So I'm ecstatic because of that. And again, it would not be for the push of the drive of the man 2 chairs over. So I thank him for that.
You have nothing?
I think Aaron covered it all.
I think she did.
Well job, good job on your assessment, Aaron. And, I mean, she covered it all. Thank you to the employees. It doesn't go unnoticed. And the contribution from Mountain Ambulance. We've made great strides in the folks that take time out of their busy schedule to come and participate in our meetings. And, you know, the citizens' input is important. Whether we agree or disagree, we need people's input so that we can look at things from different perspectives, because one way is not always the right way. And again, as Aaron said, the leadership that Chief Putney's brought to the table, and our town, we still have a long ways to go, but we're making up for lost time, and I think this council has done a fantastic job working together and you know, making tough decisions that we need to make to further progress where the town needs to go. So,
I
thank
want to
you.
piggyback on that, on Councilman Abernathy. There's been, and we're in the process of a paradigm shift, where what's happening is there's so much misinformation from residents and folks, summer residents, visitors, people that are here, or our new families that are coming in. And so it's very easy for them to misunderstand some things. So I think next week's meeting about garbage, after Chief's presentation, there will be some Q&A and questions, of course, for some clarification. But I think that a lot of folks will get calm, and I think that things will be immediately better. That being said, everyone has to agree to disagree and work together in order to come to consensus for us to move forward. And the difference in the council has been, very simply, that we agree to disagree so that we can work together and you can get great things done. And that is what's happening. We're also inviting the taxpayers to come and speak to us. Please come and talk to us, call us, email us, because if you hear something that doesn't sound right, call the town hall, contact one of us to try to get the correct information, or servant leaders. And I think that is the way things are changing, rather than the mindset of we're not approachable. Yeah, if you go in to get a pizza and you can grab Jimmy, if he's not up there flipping the pizzas in the back, you can ask him, I heard this, is this correct? Or if you see Barry walking his dog, or you're in Grand Rider, or you see Councilman Malang, and she's working out or whatever, or hiking, or me at the fitness center, ask or call Chief Putney, and there lies the difference. We're available and we're approachable. And so working together as a group, we're now seeing great things happen. The landscaping, the infrastructure, the water problems. And it's great to now have momentum, a sense of moving forward. And it takes all of us to do that with the leadership. But it also takes a level of comfortability from the residents, including our summer residents, that feel that they can approach us and ask us questions for clarification.
Ms. Malang?
I just wanted to point out, August 26th, the TDA is doing that high-low adventure trail, which is coming from Beech Mountain all the way down to Watauga Lake, and at Buckeye, they're gonna have, from 2 to 4:30, they're showcasing businesses off the mountain and on the mountain, which is kind of cool. I did want to also mention there are things that are hitting Town of Beech Mountain website,
26 August.
reports, that kind of stuff. It's not there yet. We're going to read it. It's just not something at this point that's there and for us to read. And then my last thing is the barricades. If you don't pay somebody to put your barricade in, the bears are gonna get in your barricade, and you're gonna get a bear fine. So if you're paying to get that metal trash can, make sure you pay to install it correctly, so that you don't get fined. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Everybody's covered everything else, so there's nothing left. I just want to thank the doctor. And I understand we want to get everybody involved with this ambulance services, but I think the whole idea when we started this thing was for Beech Mountain. And so this is where I really want to concentrate on. And if we go as a standby, that we can help other communities, I'm not against that. But, speaking to the residents, this was a very, very strong key point, is that they knew the ambulance was going to be here. And again, TDA for helping the town, for making a lot of efforts and contribute to different things. So that was a great help. And that's all I have. Any citizen comments want to make? I know the one gentleman, he left, unfortunately. But Eva, you have something?
Yeah, you were proposing to remove the parking area. Are we getting rid of the overflow parking over here across the way, next to the Brook Garden?
No, we don't control that. That belongs, that's an agreement between the resort and the property owner. And they use that when their lots fill up. I'm hoping that our parking will be a little bit nicer, because if you recall last winter, when they were using overflow as a mud hole, they had to tow cars out of the mud. We'll have a paved parking lot that will be with shuttle to the resort at that parking. So I'm hoping that we'll attract it with a better product. But to answer your question, it doesn't do away with it.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that a lot of homes that don't have adequate enough parking for guests that they have, whether it's the RDO or, on the internet kind of rental, or homeowners that have family visiting, they have used that parking area as an overflow, where family have taken the extra cars up there, parked them, and then brought them back to the house. So they've done their own busing, so to speak, okay? So what we're saying to our residents up here now is that if you have overflow parking, you're going to have to pay $25 a day for parking in our new parking lot.
If you want to use the parking lot, you'll have to pay. Yes, that's correct. You're welcome to park anywhere that's legal, but I think we're going to offer a better product. I'd rather have my car parked in a paved parking lot that has someone going through checking it than in the field that's full of mud.
Not the field. We've always used the overflow parking as the circular area, not the one that has gravel or grass on it. I know that a lot of families have used that area, thinking that again, police is patrolling it.
Talk about it.
You know, I'm talking about the one right next door
we
to
are.
the brick oven.
That still is available.
That's what she's talking about.
Yeah, because that's going to be a confusion too, and something that the communications to residents and people coming up here need to know.
Well, it shouldn't be confusing. You can, people on ski loft typically park in town hall parking lot. They park wherever they can legally. We're going to offer a better product, a safer place to park your car, and we're going to charge for it.
There you go.
Just a couple of quick things in no particular order. You're gonna laugh at like Kevin and I actually got to go on vacation. We went to San Francisco. We'd never been there before, and we had to pay $125 a day to park a rental car that we did not use, and it took us 2 hours to get the rental car out of the hotel. So people that go on vacation are used to paying, and I don't think $25 is an overburdensome amount. And I think our residents are smart enough to know where all of the good parking places are. So I think we'll be okay on that. Chief, for the mobile payment, the mobile device, just question what happens if somebody doesn't have service. Sometimes people have the T-Mobile or Verizon or whatever. I'm sure you have a plan for it already, but just something to think about.
We're installing super Wi-Fi.
Excellent.
Both,
Am I paying for it?
yes. both at the parking lot and at the bathroom, because we anticipate huge Sledding Hill traffic, and all those phones need to be able to access because people are on their phones. So what we don't want is someone to use our parking area and not be able to connect. So, yes, you're putting in super Wi-Fi at both
That's
the,
instead of the meters.
it's included in the cost.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
I don't even have
We just did.
Shane Park, I wish Wilson was still here because I don't know whether it's tonight or tomorrow night, but they're having a nighttime sensory dealio.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be so cool. The whole thing is that it's
Sensory
nice and
night.
dark down there. But the other thing besides the camping that has given us is it's given us another activity area. Nice and safe, nice restrooms there. And I don't know if you guys feel it, but I kind of feel it. Recreation department is kind of blossoming because
Absolutely.
they've got these other additional areas. And I'm calling this area up here Hillside. Because we've got the Sledding Hill, we have the Peekaboo Playground now. We're gonna have the hospitality hub there that's gonna have marketing. We've got parking, we're gonna have the visitor center. So this whole hillside area is again gonna be another recreation area. So, and I think that, from the Kite Festival all the way to all of the wonderful things they're gonna come up with during the summertime, it's very exciting. The TPA is happy to work on that. And then as for 2 cents putting in where I totally have no business being, I don't think it has to be 15 or 25. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think when you have a road that is not residential and you have a majority of people crossing the road to get to the Sledding Hill, to get to the kite festivals from parking area, I agree. I think that the crosswalk is a very good idea. I think if we can make it substantial where it has like a little thingy in the middle, so people just don't go by and just see that sign over on the left. I think if there's something in the middle, it's better. But I agree. This is precious territory here, and there's precious families going around there. And people being confused if the mountain is 25 or 15, well, they need to slow down. That is what a sign is for, and I want you guys to buck up and make it 15, and forget people being pissed at you. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I need a,
Someone else?
oh, I'm sorry.
I would just like to say that I agree with Sandy, and I do think that, especially this, I'm always in favor of 15 miles an hour, but over by the Bark Park and the children's area, we lose one child, it's over for me.
Oh,
Man, I really think that you should consider some signage, whether it's children at play or adults at play, or whatever you want to have at play. It's could be a tragedy for us if we're not a little stronger with our speed limits.
Absolutely.
Barbara O'Connell, I'm sorry, 151 Harvey Road.
Could I need a motion to adjourn,
Motion.
to go into closed session for personnel matters?
Second.
Any second?
Second. I need
All in favor? Go ahead.
We're adjourned.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Have a good evening.